Hello and welcome back. Sean here, Mountains Garage. This is the second video in one day. You'd never know because I always have the Shaunaform on and I guess I always look the same. But that's okay. This is the fourth video I'm going to make about the LS adaptation to a traditional legacy transmission and torque converter. This is just an alternative to my other favorite method, but to recap, I should probably briefly, I hope, go over all the ins and outs. A LS engine crankshaft is 0.400 shorter than a traditional or legacy small or big block Chevy. And that's what all these adapters and stuff are all about. Trying to make up the 0.400 that's missing off the back of the LS crankshaft without ordering an LS specific torque converter, which will do that for you. So on the 6-liter and the 4.8 in the vans, GM, when they used the 4L80E, never made a 4L80E to LS spacing. They did their own adaptation. In that case, they used a flat flex plate, and there's a spacer, 0.400 thick, that goes between the crank and the back of the flex plate, moving everything that way. All the other engines, automatics, use this dish flex plate like this. This is an SFI version of the same thing, but with the SFI version, they modify the bolt pattern so it actually fits the old torque converters, where the factory dished flex plate does not. You can use this flat 6-liter flex plate and spacer, but it doesn't work in every application. I've showed you before, especially converters like this that aren't flat like this and not fat. That little ridge will fall inside the adapter, and the hub isn't doing any good on the converter. It's just floating around in the crank. You don't want that. I prefer, and this is actually less expensive than the flat version, SFI version, the dished version. So this is a dished flex plate, has an improved bolt pattern, SFI approved, and that will work. However, as you can see, because this is too short, we're not into the back of the crankshaft. The crankshaft would be slightly below or into the flex plate here. And we're missing it. That's what the adapter is all about. That gets us into the back of the crankshaft. But that step does not allow the converter flex plate bolted together to flex like it should. It's a flex plate. So you end up banging that step on the back of the crankshaft, or if you're actually pushing with the converter for whatever reason, like if you're on the trans brake a long time, whatever causes that forward thrust, you're pushing on the thrust bearing, hence all the doom and gloom about the LS thrust bearing probably comes from these things right here. So we want to avoid that. Most of the time, I make a spacer like this. I was whittling them out one at a time when my buddy Charlie, who owns a machine shop, made me a whole bunch of these, which is awesome. They work 90% of the time if the converter is flat, which most aftermarket torque converters are, but once in a while along comes one like this, which is not flat. So that is not going to work. And I can either machine that off, but I'm afraid the way this piece is pressed on, the whole thing's going to fall off if I do that. So I was looking for another method, and I've done this before. If you take one of these hokey adapters that I don't like, however, they do have a use. All I did was cut it in half. It's long enough, by the time you have the kerf or whatever they call the cut mark, it ends up exactly, I don't know if you can see that, the same height as these spaces that I had my buddy make me. So there we go. And this will fit around the way this is made. But now when I use my spacer, I can use one of these hokey adapters, and it goes down in just enough to center it on my flat hubbed converter. But in this case, the way it's made, it will not. So how am I going to line it up to tack weld it and then weld it fully? I take the other half of this adapter, this is the fat part, I clean it up after I cut it, and now I have a locating device. So I'm going to tack that on there and remove this to weld it because I don't want to get spatter all over my alignment rig, and I'm going to keep that for next time. If my eyes seem really big, it's because I dug out the MIG welder, plugged it all in. I recently, when I bought my latest TIG welder, I bought a new helmet with a bigger viewing window. And I don't want to mess that up MIG welding, because MIG welding you get spatter if you get your face right down there. So I don't use my old helmet very often, and when I do, it's with my MIG welder. So I get this all lined up precision-like, getting ready to tack it. I pull the trigger and I'm blind. It doesn't close, you know, it's auto darkening, it didn't darken. So now I'm seeing spots, and like a genius that I am, I try it a second time. Still didn't work. Change the battery, then we're good to go. So I'll probably see stars all night. Once was equipment failure that I probably should have checked before I tried it, and two was plain stupidity for pulling the trigger a second time. But now we're good to go. I have a 5.3 over there with a factory dish flex plate, and I always hold it up and see where it engages the crank and see how much space we got on the pads. Experience tells me most of the time when you bolt the transmission and converter up to the engine, of course the converter shoved all the way in, and as you know from watching this channel, you need to pull it out from the pump towards the engine a minimum of 1/8 of an inch and no more than 3/16 of an inch. And I find that most of the time with the dish flex plate, with the converter shoved all the way into the pump, there's about a 1/4 inch gap, so you're going to need an 1/8 inch spacer to be out the minimum 1/8 of an inch. And that puts you safely in the end of the crank, and everything's free to do its job. So that, I believe, is as close to a home run as you can get without actually having an LS specific torque converter made. Which you're ordering one, just go ahead and tell them what you have for a flex plate, and they're smart enough to hook you up. Many times in the past when I've talked about the subject, people have asked me, and I've made a few for other people and shipped them to them. Shipping is more than half of what this costs. And I was only making them one at a time. Now I do have a bunch of these, and I guess I may regret saying this, but if you need one, go ahead and contact me and I'll sell you one and ship it to you. I'm going to guess I'll try a few at $40. Probably half of that's going to be shipping. And that's a nice precision piece. If you have a flat style converter, I just weld the hole in the middle. You're going to use this to line it up. The old death hub has just enough space to sit right on there. Just tack the middle, pull it off, and when you weld the center up solid and grind it down, you can't even tell that this was ever added. But if you ever had to get it off, you could just bore the center of it out and it would fall off. So, hole in my glove. I probably have about 50 of these that I could spare. You know, great stocking stuffer for Christmas. This is the first time I've ever tried to sell anything. I hope I don't regret it. But the beauty of it is, I've just showed you how to take one of these $10 to $20 adapters and do the same thing. I didn't get fancy on the lathe. I cut it with my Sawzall, cleaned it up, round, and used it. Deburred the inside. I've also found my torque converter cleaning, which I'll stick a short video at the end of this of me cleaning out a torque converter yesterday. That has a drive adapter that is exactly this much too small. So I slide this over the hub, I put it in the torque converter flusher, works mint. I'll finish up this video by sharing some tools that were sent to me by a viewer that is a smart cookie. I can't wait to try it all out. Previously, and I'll give his name if he sees the video and tells me it's okay, I'll give you his name, but originally he sent me this a while back, 6 months ago maybe. It's a substitute for the Kentmore J tool that I use to lower the lower unit into the case. I have found that when I put an aftermarket intermediate shaft in a Turbo 400, this doesn't fit very well due to the way they're made. His does. His actually fits over it and allows me to put them in there. So I've been using this pretty much as many times as I use this one. Again, he sent me that completely out of the blue. Excuse me, didn't want any money. Just wanted me to share it. Use it. You know, he wasn't looking for fame or fortune. He's just a smart guy that wants to share, I guess. Which is, I thank you very much. His name is David. I won't complete that, but... So today, I get another box. He told me it was coming last week. He's been inventing again. So he made this handle to solve problems we all have. This is your direct drum for Turbo 400. I always put it in the case without the clutches in, so I can get my hand in there. Now we got a handle. Simple. He just bent up a bunch of aluminum. Again, sometimes the answers to problems are so simple that, you know, they pass us by. Can't wait to try that out. It'll be a time saver if I don't have to go back in the case and put the snap ring back in. If I can just lower it down there complete. Air checking. I have yet to do a decent video on air checking the Turbo 400, but it's about to change. Typically, I assemble it and I blow air up through the center split bolt and the hole next to it to check the intermediate clutches and the direct drum. And to check the forward drum, you have to set it on the pump housing outside the transmission and do it that way. This guy, David, has made a plastic insert with O-rings. This one fits the direct drum. I assume I'm going to lube it up, push it down in there. You blow air in the hole, and it's going to apply it. Awesome. And he made one for the forward drum, so no longer do I need to put it on the back of the pump and blow through the hole. I have myself the same idea, same checker. He made it out of plastic. Awesome. A couple years ago, I think I shared it on this channel too, that I was tired, especially with the bigger springs, of putting the pump in the vise and trying to get the pressure regulator spring back in with a screwdriver, get the snap ring around it and get it in the hole. So I had a little small valve spring compressor for small engines, and I set it in my little fork here on the bench, the pump, and it works really good. Well, he one-upped me. Now I can't wait to try this. Again, just a piece of flat bar, a bolt. It's going to go around the back side. I'm going to tighten that up. You can pop the snap ring right over the bolt, and I assume I'll be able to put it right in. So he's cut it off pretty small here, so I think you can get it right around with the snap ring pliers. I'll let you know, because I have to put this transmission here together tomorrow. So over the next couple days, I'll try to film using each of these tools. But man, I'm always blown away by how nice people are. So my whole internet experience, like I said, there's been one or two people that you had to block because they're just posting junk on there or just want to pick a fight. But those have been very few and far between. So thank you for the literally millions of views. Only 5,500 subscribers, but that's still pretty good. I never thought I'd get one. So I'm about almost 5,500, and I grow a couple hundred a month. So it's a slow progression. The curve is still going up. Some videos more popular than others, but hey, that's okay. I was just commenting on this morning's video about the 4-speed GM transmissions that we go right from Halloween, you wake up the next morning, boom, it's the holiday season. Well, Christmas came early today. Thanks for watching. And as promised, I'll still catch you in a couple days. Have a good evening.